So today we'll be going through some of the foundations of database, and I'll try to understand the database management systems. So most of us have already worked with some of the RDBMS in some of our work in the past, but we will try to cover any areas that were missing, and we'll try to get a holistic understanding of how these database management systems work. Yeah, so that would be today. So it will be a series of sessions. Today will be the first session, and we'll start. So first, we'll just start with the basic question of what is a database, right? So we all know what a database is. We can understand it, but it's always good to define it in a way so that it will help us to understand the relational database management system, all of it a little better. So let's start with this particular definition here. Database is a system used to store data, which is almost right? But let's say, for example, if you have to consider these cases where for example, a wall full of sticky notes, right? So it obviously has some data, but we don't relate it to a database. So it's not a database. So we may have to tweak our definition a little and say that only digital data we are dealing with. So a database is a computer system used to store a data. So that's good. And let's take one other case, which is saying when we say a computer system, we get all the files that we can possibly create and store on the system computer under this consideration, right? So images, videos, spreadsheets, everything on your system. So but all these put together still doesn't relate to our database definition, which we all familiar with, right? So but spreadsheets is something which we have worked with. We can is that a database? Yes, we can say that it's to some extent it can be used as a database, and it is a database actually. So but what differentiates a spreadsheet from the rest of the files that we see in these examples, images, videos, or documents? So one thing that pops out from rest of the files is that spreadsheet stores the data in a organized way of columns and rows. So which is a essential one of the essential requirements of a database. So not just a computer system to store data, but it should store the data in an organized fashion. So we will tweak our definition even a little. Database is a computer system used to organize and store the data. This pretty much covers what we need, but it's still missing an even more crucial part of a database. So which is obviously when you can organize data and store data as much as you want, but if let's say the entire purpose of storing and organizing data is so that the analysts or developers later point in time can go through the data and analyze and get insights out of it. So that's the important piece of any database. So that when we consider that also into a database definition, this will be the how the definition of a database may come out to be. So database is a computer system used to organize and store so that it can retrieve, data can be retrieved and analyzed at later point in time. So this is more or less the definition of a database. So what are the four elements of that we have so far constructed under database is that it has to be digital, it is stored data in an organized fashion, and that data, whatever that is stored, it should be easy for the users to retrieve and perform analysis on that. So this is more or less what these four elements are the important components of any database that which we may relate to. So, and oftentimes in our context, when we say database, we mean that we talk about a relational database. So let's see what that is. A relational database is basically in the 4 constructs that we just saw, right? Storage, structure, and retrieval. These are the 3 most important. A relational database is a specific type of database which imposes a certain rules on these 3 constructs: the way we structure the data, the way we store the data, and the way we retrieve data. So when you impose a certain type of rules on each of these segments of a database, that type of database is called a relational database. It's the other way around. The relational database has a specific type of rules imposed on each of these elements of a database. Let's try to get a glimpse of what these rules, how could these be like. So the first point, data is organized in tables and rows. This is about the structure element. So data should be organized in tables of rows and columns, and which are related to each other, right? So in Excel, we can say that we can store data in spreadsheets, rows and columns, and multiple tables, but it's not very proper for us. We cannot relate each of those tables with each other, right? So but in a RDBMS relational database, we will, whenever we define tables, whenever we create tables, we define relationship, how it relates with the rest of the tables in the database. So this is one rule on the structuring of the structure element of the database. And the other element on storing, another rule on storing is that whenever you store data in a relational database, you should make sure that the storage is efficiently used. So the other day, so typically these data relational databases will lie on servers or on cloud, and the storage, you will be paying for the storage that you consume. So when you're dealing with large amounts of data, it is very essential for companies to store data efficiently without having duplicate data or redundant data, because if they ignore these duplicate data, the storage will go up and their costs to maintain the database will go up significantly. And also some of the other rules on storage element are, we should make sure that the data doesn't have any inconsistencies, and obviously the data should be stored in such a way that it is efficient to do any analysis on it. So these are the element, and obviously the analysts should have a capability to slice and dice the data in whatever the way they want, so that they can take any piece of any section of the data and relate it to any other piece of data and make some meaningful analysis out of it. So these are the broad elements of a relational database which we can expect. So let's take a quick example of some of these rules, like how not going deep into it, just to help us understand how this can be applied in a relational database. So one of those rules is related to something called as database normalization. So you may have heard about it in the past. Database normalization is a separate small topic in itself. We'll come back to it in detail in some other time, but for the time being, let's just understand what it does. So database normalization, to put it very bluntly and simple, it basically they are set of some rules which allows the larger database tables to be split into smaller tables, and links these smaller tables among themselves using various keys or indexes that which we are familiar with in SQL. So, and why it does that, there is a reason why this particular splitting of larger tables into smaller tables is done. So the reason for that is to achieve all these things. So it eliminates the redundant data piece which we talked about, which can take up all our storage and increase a significant cost. reduce the data inconsistencies, and maintain the data integrity. So whenever we see a database, people should not have a question of how much can I trust this data. In order to eliminate that question of trust, all these things have to be taken care of, and the data integrity has to be maintained. And database normalization is a set of rules that will help database developers to achieve all these three elements and maintain a quality data stored in the database. And as I said, it's just, we will come back to normalization in depth and see how it works and all of it. But let's just get an example here. So there are several types of normalization rules. They're typically called 1F, 1NF, 2NF. So first normalization form, second normalization form, etc., etc. Typically, third normal form normalization is considered like a decent one, which is like the minimal one which you need to arrive at while creating a database. Anything higher higher than that is also is obviously the more we progress across that series that we see there, the database becomes more and more better and more efficient. But 3NF is something that is minimal requirement, and you can work with that. That is those are several. Let's take a quick example now. Let's say, for example, if you have this set of data, okay, and you want to represent it in a database. This is the table that this is the data, and here we have data related to some of the users, their address, and the movies that they have rented in the past, and the salutation of that particular user. And like you can see that here, the first person, Janet Jones, has rented from the same address. Same person has rented 2 movies in the past, and there is one other person, Robert Phil, from this address, who also rented 2 movies, and there is a second person with the same name who is from different address. Let's say if we have to apply the normalization rules, if you have to create a database for this sort of a data, how the normalization rules will want us to create the database. So the same data, once applied at least third normalization form, the database will look something like this. So it will look into the data table that which we saw will be split into these 3 tables, and we will not go into how these tables have arrived at. We will cover that in one of the next sessions where we talk about normalization in depth. But the normalization will achieve these 3 tables based on certain rules. And let's understand these 2 scenarios and how they which one is beneficial, why the normalized form is beneficial than the raw form that which we saw. So first, the first condition you can see here is eliminate redundant data, right? Redundant data or duplicate data. Let's say, for example, take this case here, the first user, Janet Jones, right? So this person has rented 2 movies, and I have address for that particular person duplicated twice. Obviously, it's a simple table I've used here for explaining purposes. But imagine something like this. So this person, if he or she is a movies fan, right? Imagine they have rented, and they've been using the platform for a long time, and there are 150 or 200 movies that they have rented in the past. So that means for the same person, you will have 150 elements of rows, and you will duplicate this particular address 150 times. And in the worst case, imagine further saying that here we only collect maybe some 2 columns of person's demographic information. Let's say there are some 10 columns related to person demographics, city, state, zip, phone number, social security, or some other details. Then imagine all those 10 columns being duplicated 160, whatever the number of movies that they have, 160, 200 times. Now that is only for the case of one user. Now imagine you having a set of millions of users, and all of them are having a similar situation. So the amount of redundant data and duplicate data will will be just so much that your database storage is not so efficiently used, and your costs, whatever you're paying for storage on either on servers or cloud, it can be basically you're paying a lot more than you're supposed to pay. So because and now just let's take the same case for redundant data in the normalized form here, database form. Okay, and what do we have here is we have one table on the top which gives us the membership details, so we can call it a membership table. So each row is a one person membership, Janet Jones, and only all the attributes related to that person. And the second table is the table which gives us information related to what movies they have rented in the past. So here Janet Jones is a membership ID 1, so I can see that particular member 1 has rented 2 movies, so I can get that information from this table. And salutation is again what this membership ID, what salutation ID are they belonging to. So I can see that Janet Jones salutation ID 2, and I can see the proper salutation. Now take the example of, let's say if Janet Jones here has rented, let's say 600, 100 or 200 movies, I will see that my second table will go up obviously in the rows, but my whatever the demographics table, that will remain unaffected, right? It will still have only one row. So, and also no matter the movies are number of rows in the second table is increasing, the data redundancy is minimized, because we are not passing all this information. I'm just passing an integer which consumes a far less space when compared to passing the entire information of that particular customer for each row of those repeated movies, right? So this is the way it can where it can help store the data efficiently. One other case is data inconsistencies. Let's look at this as well. Now let's say, for example, the same Janet Jones, assume that there is another column which holds information related to phone number of that particular user, and this Janet Jones has some 200 rows on that particular person, and some point in time they have decided to update their phone number. Okay, and you need to make sure that you have to come to all those 200 rows and update that phone number at all those 200 places using this particular raw format. For example, if you did, oftentimes it may happen that you may have, out of all the 200 rows, you may have covered all of them 190, 195, but you may have forgot to miss out update the rest of the 4 or 5 rows. So that will lead to data inconsistencies. Okay, let's say, for example, even if you did manage to for some reason update all the 200 rows, it is a not very easy task for you to update all of them at once. Updating large number of rows, it's a computationally intensive, also manually it takes a lot of effort from your side. So from that standpoint also, this particular format is not very feasible. So going ahead in the normalized form, I have membership information in a table here, membership table, and I have only one row related to one user. So I can just update the phone number in that row, and I can expect the same to reflect, which is easy to do. Updating one row is far more easier than updating several rows. And also it will not lead to any data inconsistency. Once updated in one place, the same updated number will be reflected anywhere in the entire database. So that way, this normalization will also reduce the data inconsistencies, and it will reduce the data trust issues as well. So it will maintain the data integrity throughout the database. And so there are, so these are a couple of simple examples that we can see how the normalized version of a database, normalization of a database, can help store data more efficiently. And obviously, this storing data efficiently in a database has a direct impact on the way that you retrieve data and analyze the data. If you store data more inefficiently and your storage is always fully occupied, any queries that you build on the database or any analysis that you do will be not so easy. So the retrieval part of the data will also be dependent on this efficiency, how efficiently you store up your data. And it is also on the top of that, this structure, which is having the data in multiple tables split up in like this, the result of normalization is proven to be far more efficient way to retrieve and analyze data than this particular form. Anyhow, we'll come back to this normalization, how it works in detail in some of the next sessions, but that is just to help you understand the effect of normalization. Okay, obviously now we understand that database and what is a database. We know that how database needs to be structured using all these relational database needs to be managed and structured using all these ways, several rules. Now the question comes is for one simple table like this, we have split it into 3 tables, right? Imagine a proper database for a particular big organization or company. It will have several tables in itself, and that will have to split into multiple tables, so it will be ton of tables for you to manage. You need to make sure that these membership IDs in each of these tables are properly given, and they are properly referenced in some other related tables. For example, salutation ID, it's present in some table, and it has to be properly referenced in this membership table, and likewise, right? So all this management we cannot do it manually. So for that purpose, in order to maintain that database and manage all of these tasks, we look for something called as Relational Database Management System, in short RDBMS. So that is Relational Database Management System is basically, it will help you. It's basically a set of tools that will help you to build relational databases based on the rules that we just discussed, and also help you to manage these databases and maintain the data integrity piece of it consistently and throughout. Let's look at some of the expected capabilities of a RDBMS. We'll not go too deep into it, but let's just explore what these some of the main features that we should look for in a RDBMS. So first is data structures. Again, the first structural element of a database. We should be able to create tables as per our requirement. We should be able to define the column parameters in each of those tables, right? So for example, in the previous example that we saw, membership ID, that's a primary key. We should be able to define properties like that. What column is primary key, what column is foreign key, or indexes, all these sort of things. And we should be able to, most importantly, define the relationship between the tables that which we create. And also the data validation rules, which are basically what a particular data type of a column is, and make sure that any data that comes into that data that column holds those rules. So related to structure, these are some of the few examples what we can expect from RDBMS requirements. And on the apart from the data structures, on the data storage front, the RDBMS tends to provide features related to that help us organize data properly, build indexes, which we saw in the previous tables that we explained even through, and just for in case if the servers where data is stored, if it for some reason crashes or got destroyed, we should be able to retrieve your data. So for that reason, your RDBMS should also give a capability of doing regular data backup, so that your data is safe. And apart from this, there is few other reasons related to data security. So you have a server, you have a database put up on that server, and you need to give this access to other people, right? So not everyone should be able to access it. So you can give you can control who accesses this data by providing them certain login credentials, etc. And also not only you can give the database access, but there is something called manage user logins feature, using which you can restrict someone's access to certain tables only. So if there is someone from sales department, you can restrict their sales people's sales department folks or to data related to only sales, and likewise you can do that using manage user logins feature as well. And apart from that, oftentimes the data that you store is subject to a lot of regulations. So for example, medical data or financial data, there will be a lot of government rules that you need to follow in terms of how you securing this data. So RDBMS system should also give you capability to audit what's happening in your database. So whenever a particular user is working on your relational database, your RDBMS should be able to monitor all the activities that are happening from across all the users who have logged in, all of it, and maintain a log of all that activities. So all these features are expected out of a RDBMS. Obviously there are a lot more. These are just some of the important ones. So this is a relational database management system. Let's quickly see some of the popular RDBMS which we are know. So understanding what RDBMS works best or is most suitable for your case depends upon what are your requirements. So RDBMS, all of them, all the RDBMS softwares will have more or less the features that we have covered in the previous slide, almost all of them, except for here a little bit of tweaks here and there. So yeah, there are lots of vendors who provide these RDBMS tools, and most of these RDBMS tools are catered designed to by keeping a specific requirements from the users. So if you take one particular RDBMS, you cannot say that it can be used by all the users. So it may meet only requirements of a specific set of users, but there could be some other RDBMS which meets another set of requirements from another set of users. So it's all about understanding what your requirements are and choosing which of the RDBMS in the market provides those requirements well. So for example, let's say if you're a small if you want RDBMS for a personal project, or let's say for a small database, you may go for some of the RDBMS which are desktop based. So basically you can install them on your desktop and work with it. And popular ones among those type of RDBMS are these ones: Microsoft Access, some of us may be familiar with it, FileMaker and OpenOffice Space are a couple of others. There are a lot more. I'm just showing 3 examples here. And let's say, for example, if you are a medium scale business and you collect a little more data than personal project data, in that case you may opt for server based RDBMS. Some of these RDBMS providers here are SQL Server, Oracle, and PostgreSQL. There are a few more as well, but these are the top 3. And let's say, for example, if you're an enterprise and you have a constant need for your more and more data is coming into your system and you need to hold it, in that case you can go for cloud-based solution. And there are RDBMS providers, vendors there as well, which is Azure SQL Database or Amazon Relational Database System, Oracle Cloud, and a few other cloud systems like Google. They're also there, but yeah, this is just to give you an example. And there are a lot more RDBMS providers. Just if you want to take a look at these values, I would suggest going through this link. Let me actually quickly walk you through that. So this is a web page that gives rankings to the all the relational database management systems that are currently available. So you can see that they've ranked based on a particular score, because September 2021 is the latest updation of the scores. We can see the top 3 are some of like Oracle relational database management, MySQL, Microsoft SQL. So these two most of us may be familiar with. And then we have Microsoft Access, Microsoft Azure SQL databases is from the cloud-based model. We have Snowflake, and you can go through the list whenever you get free. So this is called DB Engines database, relational database rankings. So let's go back to our PPT. So this is I'm sure we are at 10:08. I'll close in about a couple of minutes. We'll just so all these relational database management systems will work on a model called client-server model. So some of us may be familiar with it. What it means is basically for your RDBMS to work, it needs two elements. One is the server piece element and the client piece element. Okay, let me quickly show these both. So database server is where actually all your data is stored, and all the structuring, organizing, all the activities that you perform will be working on the server itself. At the interface client is just the way that it's just an interface for you to interact with the server. Let's say, for example, take an analogy of a car. The engine is where the most of the work is being done, right? The car engine, but you sit in the internal compartment and control it with the acceleration, brakes, and steerings, all that. So you can take that engine as the server and the internal compartment as the interface client that you work with. And so there can be different types of clients that are available. There are text command line interface clients. So that means just like how command prompt or terminal most of you may be familiar with, you can connect to your RDBMS, be it SQL Server, any of these, using these command line interfaces as well. But it's slightly tedious and you need to remember a lot of syntax. So, and then comes graphical user interface related clients like SQL Server Management Studio, MySQL Studio, all of these things which are GUI based. Or people will also develop custom applications to work with certain types of servers, and they can also develop basically based on that. And the main benefit here using this client and server model is that using one client you can connect to multiple servers, or it can also happen vice versa, that you can connect to a single server from multiple clients. So this is the main benefit to using this particular approach. We can have lots of people connect to our server, or we can connect to lots of servers at the same time. And most RDBMS servers, whenever you install, let's say for example Microsoft SQL Server, they tend to come with the default preferred client software as well, client tool. So whenever you download MySQL Server, it will come with the client, say Management Studio, and same mostly happens with the MySQL as well. Most of the times there will be a preferred client based on for that particular RDBMS. So let's take a quick look at this link, which gives us information related to what are the popular clients that are available to manage the RDBMS. So this is a Wikipedia page, and here are the list of all the clients that are available. And what on the right side columns is telling us is from here on, so first 3 columns tells us on what operating system is that particular client capable of running, and then the next columns tells us what RDBMS are these clients supported. So for example, if I navigate to Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, this is a client for Microsoft SQL Server, and you can see that it works only on Windows and doesn't work on Mac and Linux, and it doesn't support any of the RDBMS except for Microsoft SQL Server, right? But if you see something like dbeaver, okay, this is also a client. This, on the contrary, you can see that it works on Windows, OS, and Linux, all the operating systems, and it's also capable to connect to any of the RDBMS that is available in the market at the moment: Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, MySQL Server, any of them. So yeah, so you can go through with this. This is a database comparison Wikipedia page. You can go through it whenever you want, and yeah, so this is more or less It's very informative link. You can go through it if required. And I think we'll stop it here, and we'll continue from the next slide in the next session.